Welcome back to the Beyond Files. Before we dive into the strange, the uncanny, and the flat out unexplainable tonight, I need to take a moment to honor someone very special who crossed over recently. His name was Blue. You may not have seen him on camera, but you felt him in the rhythm of this show. He sat just off screen, always listening, always guarding, always part of the flame. He walked with me through every recording, through storms, seen and unseen, and now he walks just beyond the veil. So tonight's episode is dedicated to my good boy, my protector, my shadow sifter, my soft signal, Blue. I know he's still here, probably judging Dusty, let's be honest, but watching and waiting and wagging in the stars. If you're ready to question reality, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
The more I observe people, the more I've come to the conclusion that your best friend is your dog. The dog's love is unconditional, and that's often difficult to find in human beings. You will even find that your brother or your sister or your father or your mother or your friends will turn on you for one reason or another. Well, that's not unconditional love, is it? But a dog, you come home late at night, he doesn't complain to you. He's just so happy to see you that you came back, and they understand every word you say to them. He won't get angry or complain bitterly to you that your time schedule was way off. No, dog will never do that. That's unconditional love.
This first clip hit me a little differently, reflecting on how dogs love us in a way few humans ever do, with loyalty that doesn't flinch, affection that doesn't judge, and presence that never pulls away. He says your family might give you conditional love. Your friends might disappear when things get hard. But your dog stays. Your dog knows. And after this past week, I can say that's more than just true. It's sacred. Don't take it personally, Dusty. You've been a great co-host. But if you licked my face after I cried, I'd call the police.
What was that? Huh? What was that? What? It's like a screaming noise. Huh? It's like a screaming noise.
Skeptics might just say that's a random noise. But dog people, we know. When a dog barks like that, they're not just hearing a sound, they're seeing something we can't. You ever bark at ghosts, Dusty? No? Just the IRS? All right, that's fair. I think some spirits linger because they're lost, but some, they stay just long enough to say, I'm okay. I remember. And I still run here. What about you, Dusty? Planning on haunting your favorite chair after the big curtain call? Or just the fridge?
So, I don't know if you can see it on the camera. I'm just walking this way to go in there. And when I get to right about here, that door just closes on me. Just barely misses me. All the way closed. Rude. Hey! No. Why is it going so slow now? It's still closing. I asked you not to. I said that would hurt me. It doesn't count just because you're doing it slow. That's still closing it on me. You could hurt a dog. Okay. Thank you for leaving it open a little bit.
All right, this one I'm not entirely sold on. The dogs, they don't react at all. Not even a head turn, not a bark, not even a side eye. And if there was something truly otherworldly creeping through that room, I feel like the dogs would have sensed it long before the door creaked shut. So either this was a draft, a well timed malfunction, or those dogs are the most chill spiritual empaths in existence.
We need to talk about one of the worst accidents that ever happened on a horror film set, because I don't really see this moment talked about much. So this accident happened on the set of The Exorcist, which is already a movie that plenty of people think was cursed, hence why I did a whole episode about it. But in the movie, Linda Blair plays this little girl named Reagan who was possessed by a demon. And the way that the film shows you that she's possessed are by these contraptions that they built for her. This is one that makes her levitate, but there was also this one that made her thrash around. To use this device, Linda had to be sewn into a plank, that way her back was supported while it was thrashing around. And mind you, the people controlling this device were adult men, and Linda was a child. So during one take, Linda actually became untethered from this device, meaning that her back was no longer supported. And you can see it in this take, but watch as she starts crying after the director calls cut. That's because Linda had just broken her spine. The director and the other adults in the room all thought that she was acting up a storm when in fact her screams and cries were from her spine being fractured. Anyways, that's only one of the many wild things that happened on this set, so check out the episode for more.
Imagine if you could get a toy into the hands of a small child, and that toy was basically an AI that its entire purpose of its existence was to basically maximize that child's physical health, mental health, financial health, monetize their data, protect them from governments and corporations, understand what is special and unique about that child. What is the thing that is going to make them the Mozart of whatever it is? I always say if Mozart never touched a piano, the only way I can think we can actually find each person's unique gifts would be if I had an AI that kind of grew up with you. It spent its time guiding you, trying to protect you, trying to maximize your strengths, backfill your negatives, really make sure that it is just creating the best life it can for you and for society. The name I have is a guardian agent. Two guardian agents can go, your kid and my kid really look like they would sync up and be best friends.
Cool.
But they're never going to meet unless we make it happen. But the concept of a little baby alien. And I came with a whole little story of like a Superman, you see a alien species and their world is going to be destroyed. So they quickly, all they're able to do is get their children to these small little spacecrafts and fire them off of the planet. Those little cogbots are coming to Earth because there's been shown the love of humans and humanity. So they're being guided here. And as a child, you could then get one of these little toys. So we had this concept. And then I had the concept of a cogbot as I had a little cog in the forehead and you could take the cog and now put it into the next model of robot. And so when you hit 18, you had basically your guardian agent best friend. And again, the AI is living really in the cloud, but it's instantiated in this robot for a physical interaction and for play, companionship, all those things.
So this AI would monitor the child's physical health, the mental health, the financial future, friendships, career, dreams, and of course monetize their data in the process, all under the noble guise of protecting them from governments and corporations while being a corporate-owned cloud-based life companion. You with me? So basically forget imaginary friends. Let's just install one. What do you think, Dusty? Should we trust the cloud with our children's souls? Yeah, that look on your face says it all. And you don't even have skin.
I can't take Benadryl because I owe the Hat Man money, and I just don't want to see him.
So lately, since I've been talking about Benadryl and the dangers of this medication, I've been seeing comments lately about this Hat Man character, and I had no idea what it was about, so I did a little bit of a deep dive into it, and it's a little disturbing. Since the late 2000s, people have been reporting on the internet seeing this figure called Hat Man, and this blog has been running since the late 2000s, sharing stories about people's encounters with this individual. The idea that somebody may owe the Hat Man money is nothing new. This is a tweet from October 2022 talking about that. Other people talk about visiting the Hat Man as well. There are even whole subreddits talking about the Hat Man. One of my biggest concerns as a physician is stuff like this that's floating around, where people may say they're going to have an appointment with the Hat Man in relation to taking this medication. High doses of this medication can be life-threatening, so please don't play around with this.
Science says it's delirium. Folklore says It's a shared archetype, a being that feeds on fear and chemical imbalance, and somewhere in between lies that uncomfortable space where biology meets the beyond. Either way, if your cold medicine comes with an optional demonic chaperone, maybe just stick with herbal tea. Allergy season or shadow season? Right, you don't sneeze, you just creak.
We have an interesting case coming out of Canada, specifically from a man named Josh Billard. He claims to be haunted and by an entity known worldwide as the Hat Man. Now, he's always hearing things in his home, and when he goes to investigate, he always finds the shadow of this Hat Man, and it terrifies him. And no matter where he goes or what he does, he always sees this entity. So he's begun documenting his journey. Take a look at this. Comment below. Tell me what you think.
Okay. I keep hearing shit up here. There's nobody else home besides me. There's definitely what's coming from. I don't care. I left that on, so that's okay. Not again. I don't want to deal with this. I do not want to deal with this. No, not again. Not again, not again, not again, not again. Not again, not again, not again, not again. Hello?
So, right after we recover from hearing that Benadryl might come with its own shadow entity, I come across this clip. Now, could be a trick of the light, sure. Could be a hoax, maybe. Could it be the Hat Man finally coming to ask if anyone around here has a Benadryl? He's got dry eyes from staring into your soul too long.
People have been asking me which curse was more dangerous to get. I did get a curse made for me in New Orleans by a guy called San Elias, who took a coffin nail, wrapped it around some of my own hair, and blended it with his powerful magic practice. He then went to India and asked a tantric practitioner to call upon his goddess Chinnamasta to judge me. Now, I don't know that that was actually a curse. If anything, I think that gave me an awakening to what I was actually trying to look for in this crazy, unusual, ridiculous concept that I had. But then I take it another step forward and enter into a blood pact with Satan. That, for me, was difficult. I think we all agree that in its concept, it's a very unique and powerful spirit or energy. Engaging directly with that to me, I think, started to really play on my subconscious and began to haunt me in my dreams. So would I rate any of those more or less dangerous? I don't know. I would suggest you don't try and find out for yourself.
Yeah, that's usually the sign of a great idea. When even the guy who shook hands with Lucifer goes, hey, you know what? Hard pass. Look, dabbling in curses might sound edgy on TikTok, but not everything you summon comes with a return policy. And blood packs, they don't expire, even if your cell phone plan does.
People figuring out how to control lightning.
So we have to say that? Palm?
Yeah.
Is it? You had to do the hand signs too? I didn't say anything. It was just his hands. So, have you tried that?
Not yet. I've been waiting for our audience to try it with.
Okay. Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe it's clever editing. Maybe it's a well timed thunderstorm. Or maybe some people carry these codes to speak to the sky. Did you know in ancient Taoist practice, certain mudras and incantations were believed to interact with the elemental forces? Thunder gods, storm deities, even the dragon currents of chi. So, I mean, this could be real magic or just meteorology with a flare. I tried teaching Dusty a lightning summoning hand sign once, and all we got was a blown circuit and the smell of toasted bones.
What if cemeteries weren't built to honor the dead, but to suppress the living? Every major city has one thing in common. Its oldest, most sacred real estate is reserved for the dead. But why? Because these burial grounds weren't just resting places. They were energy locks. You see, the ancients understood that land held memory, and that certain lands, ley lines, vortex nodes, dragon veins, could amplify frequency, power, or even activate ancestral memory. So what did the controllers do? They buried trauma into it, literally. Instead of cremation or sky burials, which allow the soul to move freely, they created a system where dense grief, unresolved spirits, and institutional rituals could be centralized and contained. Now here's the dark part. Many cemeteries sit atop repurposed star maps. Cathedral-style mausoleums mirror the architecture of sacred frequency chambers. And the deeper you dig, the more pre-modern tombs you find, far older than any city on record. Ask yourself, why are the wealthiest bloodlines obsessed with owning burial land? Why do banks and churches own most of them now? Because these grounds still hum, still lock energy, still veil what came before. Ever feel dizzy in a cemetery? That wasn't fear, that was frequency recognition. Tag someone who's always felt like the dead weren't the only ones buried.
This clip digs deep, not just 6 feet. Maybe cemeteries weren't built to keep the dead in, but to keep the living from waking up. The ground does still hum. The map is still there. And the bones? I think they remember more than we do. Dusty says he prefers to haunt strip malls. He says there's less traffic and better energy flow.
Got here at the cemetery this morning. Sun has not come up yet. As I was unlocking the door and coming in, as I was still out this door getting my keys, I heard rustling inside of here, or some kind of shifting or movement. So I came in, did my usual, don't see anything off or out of place or anything like that. So usually when I get that feeling, I just kind of hit record, and if anything happens, at least I'm ready. If not, then even better. But it sounded like it was kind of coming from that direction, but yo, okay, all right,
this guy's reaction, it's not just theatrical, and it's not exaggerated. I felt it. I think it's the kind of quiet dread that tells you he's used to this. You hear that, Dusty? Might be time to unionize the afterlife workforce. I mean, if the ghosts are on the night shift, they deserve overtime.
I guarantee you, everybody who's ever lived in Okinawa for a period of time, more than just visiting it, has a story. Like
a spiritual warfare story.
Yes.
Specifically there.
I'm willing to bet money that if you're listening to this and you lived in Okinawa for 3 years, you've got stories. And that's a question, right? Why not? It's like not everybody who lives there, but so the primary religion in Okinawa is ancestral worship. That's the main religion. And also there was, a massive amount of deaths there during World War II, including many Okinawans committed suicide because the mainland Japanese actually convinced them that if America landed on your island, you would be better off to kill the whole family and then yourself, because the Americans will eat you. And so when we landed on the island, you had whole families where like the dad and mom were throwing all the kids off the cliff and then they would jump. And so that's always been like a piece of this story of what's going on in Okinawa and why they say there's ghosts. And there's stuff on YouTube, there's all kinds of stuff where if you go to those cliffs, people claim to see people jumping off of them and stuff. Why doesn't this happen in America?
I've never heard this before, but I do know it's not one event. It's the residue of war, trauma, spiritual displacement. That hums through the island like a buried siren. It's a place where the veil thinned and then it just never healed.
Holy, this is one of the most insane things I have ever read. Scientists are now growing mini human brains to power computers. And this whole thing is creepy as hell. Now for starters, in regular computers we call it hardware. Well, the scientists in Switzerland that are currently carrying this out, they're calling theirs wetware. Bro, what? Oh, and it gets even creepier because these labs buy human skin cells from anonymous donors in Japan, and then through a series of highly complex processes and several months of growing, they turn those human skin cells into clusters of neurons they are calling organoids. Bro, I'm sorry, the naming is wild. Now, the organoids are these little white orbs that are essentially lab-grown mini human brains. Now, they're much less complex than the ones in our heads, but they have the exact same building blocks. Now, these scientists then attach these electrodes to these mini brains, and they can send and receive signals from them, which they read on a regular computer screen. Now, currently, they're very simple. It's just little signals here and there, but they want to get these mini brains to the point where they are essentially biocomputers, and they can learn, adapt, get smarter, perform tasks, kind of like AI, but the AI doesn't mimic our brains, it's our brains. And because of that, these little mini brains are unpredictable, and the scientists themselves have admitted that they still don't understand what the organoids do and why. Now, here is the eeriest part, because regular computers, they stop working, don't they? But biocomputers, they literally die. So the scientists say they can survive for up to 4 months, but before they die, they observe a flurry of activity from the organoids, which is very similar to the increased heart rate and brain activity which is seen in some humans at the end of life. Ain't no way! So, yeah, guys, the future is fucked.
So now we're growing mini brains to run machines. We're creating living tissue, not just to study, but to build consciousness into machines. Oh my gosh, where are we going? A flesh-computer hybrid. A system that may one day ask, where am I? Ooh. Did you ever have a dream where you wake up inside of a blender and then one day you're running TikTok? Yeah, me neither. But I feel like that's where we're headed.
Do you get migraines? Researchers from the University of Arizona just discovered a really cool treatment, and it doesn't involve any painkillers, injectables, or drugs of any sort. All they used was light. Green light, to be specific. Here's what happened. They enrolled 7 participants with episodic migraines and 22 with chronic migraines. They were each given LED light strips to take home, and instructed to set aside a consistent 1 to 2 hours per day where they were in a room lit only by those LEDs. They could read, listen to music, exercise, but no screens. Tough, I know. But to make sure that it was the color that mattered and not just the time off, they all spent 10 weeks using white LEDs and 10 weeks using green LEDs, with a 2-week washout in the middle. The results were amazing. By the end of the 10-week green light period, the episodic migraine sufferers went from suffering roughly 8 per month to 2.5. And the chronic migraine sufferers, they went from 22 down to 9. That's a similar effect size to the best drugs on the market, but the white light had almost no effect. And what's crazy is that we have almost no clue why this works. The human body is amazing. but so is science. Quick update, I first posted this video over a year ago, at which point we really didn't know how the green light might help with migraines. And since that point, there have been several more studies released, first showing that, yeah, in humans, green light still does help with migraines and headaches, and also helps with fibromyalgia patients. But there was another study that showed that the mechanism by which it does it, or at least one of them, is by acting on neurons in the brain that produce an excitatory neurotransmitter called glutamate, which is involved in a whole bunch of stuff. But basically, the light acts on these neurons in a way that helps to mitigate pain sensitivity, which is super cool, and actually the opposite of how red light works on the brain, or at least pretty differently, which we're going to be getting into more in the upcoming series on red light, so stay tuned.
I am a migraine sufferer, and I've thought about this. It's like nature snuck in a healing hack into the spectrum, and we're just now catching on. Ancient cultures have long linked green with balance, the heart, growth. So maybe this is less new science and more remembered wisdom. This wasn't.
But yeah, so in Canal State Forest, we're out there filming. We're doing a Bigfoot episode. We're out there looking for Bigfoot. We start having little people stuff happening. And we had one following us literally for miles. And it was tracking us. And then we got the radiation spike and it shut up and didn't make any noise. Then we get back to the woods, or back out of the woods and on the hardtop road, walking down the hardtop, and there's the whippoorwill laying on the road. I go to pick this thing up. We had this on thermal. Okay? This is on thermal. You can see the whippoorwill. I go to pick this thing up and it vanishes. It's gone. Doesn't even exist. 3 people saw this and it disappears.
Wow.
And is gone. I don't know what to make of it. So we go back and doing some post research, and the Algonquin lore in this region said that the Manitou Tutek, which was their little people, would take the form of a whippoorwill to move through the forest at night.
No way. You found that after the fact?
This wasn't just strange, it was sacred territory brushing against our edge of understanding.
Okay, these people have no idea how lucky they are right now. That's a cassowary, literally the most dangerous bird on the planet. It looks like a dinosaur because technically it is. They're one of the closest living relatives of the velociraptor. See that claw? That's 5 inches long. That's not for scratching, that's for slicing. And they don't kick down, they kick forward and upward. They've actually killed people with one kick. They can run 30 miles per hour, jump over your head, and swim through crocodile-infested waters like it's cardio day. Those people were lucky that that one was in a good mood, because if not, that blanket would have turned into a crime scene.
Ever been face to beak with an ancient chicken of death? Let me know in the comments below.
This is the Witch's Tree. We're in Louisville, Kentucky, the corner of 6th and Park. According to local folklore, this tree in the late 19th century is where witches would gather and perform their rituals. Well, city planners at that time decided they wanted to cut the tree down and use it as part of their May Day celebration. The witches didn't like that and tried to get them not to cut it down, but the city planners cut the tree down anyway. Locals believe the witches summoned a storm demon and brought this huge storm on Louisville. Well, 11 months to the day of cutting this tree down, a tornado rolled right through Louisville, Kentucky, and killed some 100 people, including some of the city planners. And when that tornado was on the way out of town, lightning struck the stump of the tree that was cut down here, and this new gnarled up, wicked-looking tree grew in its place. You see the trinkets here. Locals now believe that if they add trinkets to the trees, and the higher it goes, the more luck you have, that you will stay in the good graces of the witches.
What would you leave at the witch's tree, Dusty? Your last toenail? Half a chicken nugget? Well, this was majestic AF. A white raven perched alone in a tree. Not albino, just rare. a symbol that shows up when something deeper is stirring. In folklore, the white raven is a messenger, a harbor of awakening, a breaker of patterns, a sign that the usual laws don't apply right now. In some traditions, they appear before a major shift, to warn, to bless, or to simply watch. Some people call this sound therapy. Some call it cellular tuning. I call it risky if you have metal fillings. It's beautiful in theory, full body harmonization session. But if it were me in there, my ears would be itching, my chakras would short circuit, and I'd probably knock the bowl over trying to get out of there.
On October 25th of 2022, a paramedic posted a video of something freaky that occurred during his lunch break. The video is pretty short, so not much happens, but it's a certain detail caught in this footage that makes it quite disturbing. The video begins with the paramedic filming inside a hospital where a couple of surgeons are getting ready to transfer a very sick patient to a different wing. The paramedic walks out of the hospital to record them coming through. It isn't until later that the doctors arrive with the sick patient, who according to them passed away only hours later. The paramedic then stops recording. Now, it was only after finishing work that the paramedic had watched this video and noticed something strange about it. Looking back at the footage, they noticed that during the time they were waiting outside for the doctors to arrive, something unusual was caught in the background. Take a look. If you look closely at the hallway inside the hospital, a dark, shadow-like figure can be seen standing at the end of the hall. It's there for just a few seconds before suddenly disappearing from sight. The paramedic has no idea as to who or even what this might have been, but judging by its appearance, viewers believe that an entity of some sort was seen. They further add that this entity might have been death itself, considering that the patient in this video passed away that same day. Yet it's still not sure as to what was captured. But one thing that's certain is that whoever or whatever this was didn't seem to belong in this hospital. It remains unknown as to who or what was caught on camera.
Quiet collector, a soul escort, or something older than all of our names for it. I'm pretty sure.
Wow. Look at all these orbs. There is so much spirit activity here. It's dust. I'm sick of this bullshit.
I'm pretty sure we've all said that. And that's it for this week's journey through the strange, the spectral, and the slightly suspicious. If you found yourself thinking, wait, what did I just watch at least once? Congrats, you're in the right place. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, and that notification bell so the algorithm doesn't bury me in the digital graveyard. And hey, share this episode with a friend who's not afraid to peek beyond the veil. Now, if you want to support what I do and help keep the flame burning, you can toss something in the coffee cauldron. Links in the description. And don't worry, Dusty's just sticking around till Halloween. Unless you want him to be a permanent co-host. But most of all, thank you to the ones who show up every week, who watch all the way through, who see the pattern in the weirdness. You're my kind of people. I'm Beck. This is the Beyond Files. And until next time, keep your eyes open, keep your mind sharp, and stay weird.